Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Critters. Hey, everybody. Good morning. My name is Laura Joseph, owner of the Animal Behavior Center. Just got notification that I went live. Owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We are an international educational center teaching people around the world about working with animals, whether they're in your home or you're working with them at an educational center, zoo, what have you. Teaching people around the world about working with animals using applied behavior analysis and positive reinforcement training. You can find out more about us on our website, which is theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. So good morning, everybody. Hey, Eva, Tim, Daphne, Susie, Jude. Hey, everybody. It has been 3 weeks since the last time I've done Coffee with Critters, because last weekend I was at Ohio State University presenting to the veterinary students of the Animal Behavior Club and Exotics Club. And the week before that, Deb Jones and I did our 2-day all species animal training and behavior workshop, which went fabulous. Great reviews, very hands-on. And we've got so many overwhelming positive reviews and feedback about it that we've already decided to have it again next year. And those seats have already started selling. Good morning, Katie. Hey, Lee. Good morning, Sharon. Yay. I see a couple different people on here that Tickle Wickle Rock that were at our workshop. Sharon. What peekaboo? Okay, so it's been 3 weeks since I've done a Coffee with Critters. So bear with me. Let's get that off of there. And now that you know why we're here. Okay, so yes, Daphne, I saw your registration this morning when I woke up. So that brought a smile to my face. I can't wait to meet you. And hopefully I get to meet you before next October. Good morning, Brianna. Yay! Good to see Brianna on here from Papayago Rescue House. You hear those cute squeaks in the background? That would be yours truly, Sam. Let's see if I can get this off of here. There we go. Okay. Good morning, Shelly. Hey, guys. Shelly, you're actually in this today. Okay, so a couple of things. Let me see what I've got going on. I presented last week at Ohio State University to their veterinary student clubs of animal behavior and exotic animals. And I thought, this was actually Karen Pratt, the manager here, her idea. She goes, why don't you do a recap of your presentation? And I thought, perfect, I can do that. So we've only got an hour, and I was there for 2 hours and 40 minutes, talking nonstop, answering questions, giving a presentation. There is no way I'm going to be able to touch on everything I did there, but I actually have my presentation slides in here today, and this will be one of my first times ever showing slides from any of my presentations in a live stream. So I'm going to do a recap and bring that information to you. I'm very passionate about this topic of understanding behavior. Do we actually understand behavior? And that is the only reason. I mean, I'm a professional animal behavior consultant and trainer, and empowering animals is the only reason why I decided to go back to school and take master's level classes in applied behavior analysis to do better with the animals in my care. And that has since evolved to the opening of the Animal Behavior Center, the ABC, which stands for Antecedent Behavior Consequence. Okay, good morning, Ray. Okay, hey, Lou. Sharon says Sharon was here. Yes, great experience at the workshop. I will attend again next year. Sharon, think about signing up quickly because we have to cap it off. Anyways, I think you'll, even though you were here this year, you're really going to enjoy it next year because things are going to change. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey, Mary Lynn, Carrie, Maureen, yes. Okay, I see a couple new people on here. Great. Oh, there's Virginia. Hey, guys. Yeah, so several people on here that attended the workshop. All right, let's get started because it is 9:06 here in Northwest Ohio, and I have less than an hour to get as much information to you as possible. Somebody please remind me not to turn around with my glasses on. Right, Rico? That's correct. Your co-host, yours truly, Rico Von Squiggleton. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Like I said last week, this is a screenshot from one of the t-shirts because we're going to continue live streaming services in collaboration with Ohio State University's veterinary students, the members of their clubs, and more. And that collaboration starts last Friday. So just before I move on, just wanted to let you know, if as you're watching this presentation, if you are interested, we're doing live teleconferencing with people all over the world. You can find out more about that on our website at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. Cockatoo. Okay, so one of the first things, let me figure out how to make my screen bigger. But one of the first things, there's several things we talked about in this presentation. Hey, Kim. Several things we talked about in this presentation at OSU. I like working with exotics. I love working with exotics because I just feel that, and there's a very controversial post going on right now on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page, but we all learn from that. I don't want to say controversial, very educational, and not everybody's agreeing. And I am one that's sticking to my grounds. I do not agree. But this is the reason I like to, hey Deb, this is the reason I like to work with exotics. I feel that there is much less room for error. They really fine-tune my training techniques. And if you want to use aversives, positive punishers, conditioned punishers, you best be very careful because you're putting yourself in a very dangerous position. Turn off my phone. These guys, I don't have all exotics here in this room, primarily, but not limited to. I have my deaf bulldog right here to my right. Seeing their behavior, measuring their behavior, tells me ways I need to do better. All right. Daphne says, yeah, I don't know if you're following that post on there, but Daphne says, dogs are very forgiving. I have so many great friends, Daphne included, that are dog trainers. Dogs, my work experience with dogs, they can be very forgiving. Some of the exotics I'm working with, you make a mistake, you may be able to make it once. They're not as forgiving. A lot of the exotics that I work with they're confined. They're in captive enclosures. And we were talking about this at the workshop, Deb Jones and I. We were talking about animals in our care have less choices. And when she was talking about that with her dogs, I was like, whoa, hey, let me jump in here too, because this is very important. Exotics in our care have even less choices than the dogs because they're usually in enclosures. A lot of exotics, their choices are restricted due to their enclosures. This is interesting. Contact calling between Sam, Blind Man's Amazon, and Coco. A lot of exotics have even more restriction in choice in how they are cared for because, they're in enclosures. And a lot of these are prey animals. A lot of these can be very fearful animals. And they can be fearful because of their restriction, lack of opportunity to escape. So that's why I like to pair myself with as much as positive as possible right off the bat. Oops, backwards. All right. let me see if I can get myself off of here and talk about was brains are very expensive. They can burn off a lot of energy. All right. So this is a way to start incorporating choice and control and complexity into captive environments by providing different types of mental stimulation with positive reinforcement training included. You can't hear me? Can you hear me now, Tim? Okay. Unfortunately, I can't see all my presentation, so I can't touch on everything. Can you hear me now, Brianna? Can you guys? Okay, good. All right, so it must just be when I took myself off the screen. So let me see if I cannot do that again. For those of you that want to see this, I can't see all the bullet points because it's so small now. Hey, Sylvia, good to see you. Okay, I'm going to do a test real quick. I'm going to take myself off the screen again. Will you guys tell me if you can hear me? Could you guys hear me when I was off the screen? Hey, Kim, good to see you. Okay. Okay, cannot hear me when I'm gone. I will make sure I am not gone again. All right. All right, good. Okay, thanks. Good to know. So I guess I have to be on screen in order for you to hear me. So my problem is I cannot see the screen. Cannot see what I'm talking about. But anyways, if you guys have never heard of Franz de Waal, definitely look him up. I talked a lot about, not a lot, but he has the book out there, Are We Smart Enough to, or Are We Intelligent Enough to Know How Intelligent Animals Are? He's a fascinating guy that I like to follow. Anyways, in my presentation last week at OSU, I was talking a lot about the more intelligent the animal, and before you even go any further, you have to define intelligence. You know, what is an intelligent? The animal is intelligent as it needs to be. But something, I think it was Bern Heinrich, he wrote Mind of the Raven. His definition of intelligence was, and don't quote me on this, the animal, the more intelligent the animal is the one that each time it interacts with something in its environment, it can manipulate the object or environment in a different way each time to get a different consequence. There's a lot of studies out there right now on birds, corvids and primates. Anyways, first you need to define what actually intelligence is. And something I always say, the more intelligent the animal, the harder it is to keep. Okay? And something else I always say, you take a natural behavior away from an animal, you better replace it with another behavior, or the animal's going to replace it itself, and it's probably not going to be something you like. Okay, so this is where enrichment is such a key factor in how we keep animals. I don't care what kind of animal, whether it's domestic, undomestic. See if I can get that screen larger. Okay, so in identifying enrichment, it is individual. This is why we make so many of our own enrichment here. Enrichment devices. And devices, I primarily mean toys. So we have 7 volunteers here and 15 animals, and that includes our fish. 7 of those animals are parrots. And primarily, all of our enrichment is focused on parrot enrichment, because what I'm trying to do is, you hear me say, in order to change a behavior, you need to replace it with another behavior. We have that replacement behavior in the form of training. We have that replacement behavior in the form of enrichment to redirect attention. We have that replacement behavior in the form of foraging, getting an animal to work for its food. You hear me say a lot, work is not a 4-letter word, and that is also one of our presentations. A lot of times that enrichment has to be shaped. It has to be, you have to reinforce in real small approximations towards the desired behavior that you want the animal to do to interact with it. I don't expect any animal to understand exactly what the intention behind the foraging toy to retrieve the food. A lot of times it happens, it has to be shaped. A lot of times it doesn't. So I'm going to take a look at what some of you are saying. Daphne says, such a good point and insight for people. The more intelligent, the more challenging to keep. Yeah. We have somebody new on here. Charlotte Hammer says, Tony Smith, thanks for recommending this page to me. Loving the live videos, very useful. Well, welcome, Charlotte. I hope you enjoy. Feel free to share, okay? So this live stream is one of the first times I have ever, it is the first time I've ever live streamed publicly any of my presentation. So these are just bits and pieces of my presentation from last weekend. And I'm going to take myself off here just for a second so I can see the rest of what I'm talking about. Okay, so I had to be able to see the screen. Enrichment is is a portion of every part of any of our behavior modification plans, okay? And you'll see behind me, some may consider these large enclosures for a parrot. These are 9 by 9 by 10 feet, I believe. That doesn't come without its consequences, all right? We're dealing with very social animals, but not just limited to birds, not limited to parrots. Keep this in mind across the board. You're working with the very social animals, the parrot, with the majority of them travel in large flocks in the wild, 400, 500, 800. And here, how we're housing them in our care is usually caged individually. That's right, Rock. He's giving his 2 cents. Okay. But enrichment, that's where I say, you take away a natural behavior, you better replace it with another one, all right? I've got some serious competition going on here. I've got a 9 by 9 by 10 foot enclosure that I'm competing with the size of portions of Australia, all right? I am taking away natural behavior. Most of the animals that are here are surrenders, but definitely not limited to. We are not a rescue. We are an educational center. I just like to take in animals that have lost their homes for one reason or another. Pointing down to my deaf bulldog sitting beside me. Lost their homes for one reason or another. And I like to show people that these animals learn through their environment. And these are learned behaviors. They can be changed. Sylvia says, I tell dog owners that their naughty dog is because the dog is so smart. And another thing I like that we had talked about here, Sylvia, is like or not like, is labeling behaviors. All right? The terrible twos. That is a label that when I see it, I'm like, whoa, there's the opportunity to educate, because those terrible twos, they're not terrible for the animal. They're usually terrible for the people. It's usually pretty exciting for the animal because they're young, they're learning how to manipulate their environment, including yourself, by seeing what brings desirable consequences and what doesn't. And the more you do not interact, the more opportunity that animal is learning how to get consequences it wants from its environment that probably are not desirable by you. And once you teach me 2 + 2 = 4, I can't forget it. So once an animal understands that a certain undesired behavior by the human brings a desired behavior or desired consequence by the dog, bird, whatever, that animal doesn't unlearn it. Now the problem comes in, or the difficulty of counter conditioning, meaning having to retrain. The animal has already learned this being brings a desired consequence. Now you have to counter condition, retrain what you want it to do instead. But here's the concern. Once you start retraining something else, when that positive reinforcer for the alternate behavior is not delivered, the animal will likely regress back to the undesired behavior because that gave desired results. Okay, hey, there's Karen. Karen, I was talking about you at the beginning of this presentation. Okay, so let me move to the next slide. Okay, I got to see what enrichment is all about behavior, and it's always defined by the animal. And it should always, what's behind here is it always should include, enrichment should include or incorporate choice, control, complexities. Enrichment here is constantly changing. We can't stick the same old toys in enclosures with the birds, pigs, what have you, with the dogs, because studies show with predictability comes boredom. The same old toy over and over. How many times for you, those of you that work with dogs, thanks, Rock, thanks. I see it all the time. People say, yeah, I don't give my dog toys anymore because they don't play with them. I'm like, whoa, how's your couch? But I say, that's where I say probably because it's the same old toy. With predictability comes boredom. Studies show that. There is an article out there that I wrote, Predictability Has Its Place. I train a lot of wildlife for, well, injured wildlife that can't be released, that needs to go into educational programs. You want to fine-tune your training skills. Volunteer your training at your local wildlife rehabilitation center using positive reinforcement to help get that animal to be an educational ambassador. Okay. I am very predictable in the beginning with a very fearful animal, unsocialized animal, wild animal. But over time, I need that predictability to change because I try to keep routines out of how I care for animals here, okay? Because when routines are broken, stress is induced. And we have numerous people here that help us take care of animals. I can't be the only one doing the food delivery. I can't be the only one doing the food delivery, or we can't always do the food delivery at 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. It can't be consistent because when that routine is broken, you're going to have some stressed animals that are probably going to start showing some behavior issues. Okay. Oh, I can't see. I think it says, what is that? Emery and Clayton. Socialization is one of the most complex forms of enrichment. It is. And I'm sure many people will agree. So we will use socialization here, even with certain animals that can't come in contact with each other. We can still reinforce those animals interacting with each other via vocalization, via visual. If it's attention, that's a reinforcer deliver attention for the reinforcer of the one animal looking at the other. That is how we start shaping. Here we got some contact calling going on back and forth between Sam and Coco. Very interesting. Oops. What do you think, Pipsqueak? You good? Okay. Isha, good point. I never knew that. I try to stick with the routine for my Quaker, but realize she's stressed when my schedule changes. Yeah, Aisha, if you follow some of the work we do, you'll see we're big promoters of shaping in change. Something I say all the time. Keep your animal used to change. Your life and their life will be so much easier and less stressful. And that is keeping an animal used to change a lot of times is something that needs to be shaped. So be careful not to take too big of steps in your shaping plans. This is a great slide, and I can't read it because it's too small. I guess I should have a printout. But lack of, I talked about, let's see if I can. So you can see the whole slide. You can see it. I can't see it. If you guys want to tell me what it says, that'd be great. But different, that's right, Rock. Different things I talk about in lack of enrichment. I can't see this slide. So yeah, there's Molly, a lemur that we used to train here. Abnormal repetitive behaviors will develop out of lack of enrichment. And a lot of these slides I had to take out of this presentation because there's just numerous videos and so much information. Empowering animals and changing abnormal repetitive behaviors. Very pretty, Rock, is one thing that I love to do because it empowers the animal, and you can change those abnormal repetitive behaviors. A lot of abnormal repetitive behaviors, such as you'll see like in a zoo environment, an animal just pacing back and forth or rocking back and forth. You can see it as in excessive toenail biting, spinning in circles, swimming in circles. Last week at this presentation, I used an example as the, oh, you can't see the slide either. Very pretty, Rock. I used the example of go to a polar bear exhibit. Sometimes you'll see swimming patterns, the exact same swimming patterns. Even where a bear goes underwater, flips upside down, touches the rock. Come back, goes underwater, flips upside down, swims back, touches the rock. This presentation showed a lot of abnormal repetitive behaviors. We have them here. And a lot of times, abnormal repetitive behaviors help reduce stress. Not all of them are bad. I was talking the other day in a live stream about some that I have. But when I see them in excessive amounts, especially very well defined, such as a hand touching the same spot in a cage or on a rock or an enclosure, a lot of times abnormal repetitive behaviors develop out of lack of choice, lack of opportunity to get to something that they want to. Make the slide big. Well, I can make the slide big like that, Shelly. But what I'm trying to do is if I take myself off of here, you guys can't hear me. So let me take myself off here for a second so you can see. Okay, I can't see what it says, but there's several different studies. I'm getting ready to do a 2-day workshop. Hey, Donna, good to see you. There's another person that attended the workshop that I had the honor to get to know. I'm getting ready to do a 2-day workshop in Montreal, and I have in Montreal on abnormal repetitive behaviors. This is for a group of, not limited to, but primarily professional dog trainers. And I am going to be giving a presentation focusing on abnormal repetitive behaviors in the exotic community. Why? Because it really helps fine-tune your training skills. Observing behavior, reading behavior, measuring behavior, changing behavior. Okay? Yeah, Canada. Okay, lack of enrichment. There's several, there's so many different studies out there on side effects of lack of enrichment. Some are the inability to even experience or interact with something that should deem pleasurable for the animal. Some other side effects of lack of enrichment, one of the ones that I say quite a bit is a really sad situation for me to see is an animal not interacting with its environment. And a lot of times I can tell if the type of history the animal has come from. There's coincidences or behaviors or lack of behaviors that coincide with an animal being raised in an unenriched environment. One is lethargy, suspicion, extreme fear from situations that should not be fearful, not interacting with their environment. Do I need a translator? I might, Daphne. For my presentation, yes, in Montreal, I might. Okay, let's keep on moving because in this slide, I just want to say lack of enrichment, the inability to problem solve, okay? There's a major difference here between Rico, my umbrella cockatoo here on this slide that I've had since he was 5 months old, and Rocky, our 21-year-old Moluccan that I adopted at the age of 8. Rocky's behaviors are very stunted. His ability to problem solve is very elementary compared to an enriched Moluccan at the age of 21. All right, Rico, mini-me, here in this slide, he's so quick to figure things out. Boom, boom, boom. That we hang a lot of complex toys, puzzle solving toys on the outside of his cage to increase that complexity. He is a bird that I've had. He hears me. That I've had since he was 5 months old, and since I first got him, we were training, foraging. Okay. All right. That's why when I run into an animal or when I meet an animal that I'm like, wow, why is this animal not being able to solve this situation? Is it because it doesn't understand? Is it too complex? Lack of history of enrichment of learning? Okay. Okay. I want to keep moving. Training for the medical exam is what I went into. Training using positive reinforcement tells the animal, okay, and this is, here I am training for medical exam for a wildlife ambassador, and studies show that if you're actually using positive reinforcement training, it is the animal's preferred form of enrichment. And something that coincides with that slide that I'm talking about on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page in regards to the use of the no reward marker. Why would I want to use the no reward marker when studies already show that animals learn faster by being reinforced for what to do versus what not to do? Very rarely will you find me telling an animal what not to do here. If I do, number one, it's because I'm being lazy. Number two is because the consequence of maybe it's the first time the behavior has happened and the consequence of me not interjecting is worse. But the positive punisher behind me doing that from being lazy is the result I see of the behavior from the animal, okay? Random animals act different when choices are taken away from them and when they're told what not to do. It's so clear from a training perspective, somebody that studies applied behavior analysis and positive reinforcement, the behavior is very obvious, very quick. So Daphne says, awesome observation on how environmental impacts an individual behavior and their feelings of safety, comfort, trust, enrichment. Yeah. And my apologies for not being able to see the slides. If you could see how this is from my standpoint. Like I said, I've never presented these publicly before, so the screen is really small, so I can't see what it says, but I can get a basic understanding. Okay. Let me make this small again so I can see what I'm talking about. So here's 3 alligators that I'm training to station, the beginning stages of shaping a station. See if I can get myself off here for a second. So you can see there's 1 laying on the sand, but 3 are coming up to the bank. Okay, that's some training I'm doing at a zoo. So the keepers can safely and effectively go in and clean the alligator's enclosure. So this is a behavior in the beginning stages of shaping, but what's really cool is the sight of me. I am now becoming the conditioned reinforcer. When they see me approach, they start going to their stations. So Daphne says no reward marker is a very controversial topic in dog training. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Daphne. Yeah, there is no room for a no reward marker in the world of training exotics. You are going to get yourself hurt very fast. And I know somebody that Crystal just posted on that post right before I went live. She has plenty of experience working here. She is now moved on to a dog training position, but she knows exactly what I'm talking about. You know, when I don't want to get off topic talking about no reward marker. Maybe we could talk about that some other time. But yeah, it's very frustrating for the learners and frustrating for you too, Sylvia. Yeah. When I first heard about it, I honestly said, what the hell is that? Why would anybody want to put that on cue? Okay, so training for the medical exam. We do it with all the animals here. A lot of my training here at the center is preparing animals for the medical exam. And moving and shifting animals, because we have a lot of animals here that if they encountered each other, it would be not a very desirable consequence for the animal or myself. That's right, Rock. So I was talking about different ways to prepare for the medical exam. All right, teaching a pig a station. I'm not going to bend over in a vet's office and work on help assist, because putting myself into that position will punish the future behavior of me doing that kind of training. So you teach a pig to go to a station, you can move that station anywhere you want to keep your pig in a safe environment. And train to accept restraint. We do a lot of that here. Muzzle training, toweling of birds, going into crates to accept restraint. That's right, Rock. I work with a couple of different veterinarians. I know we were just talking about this at the workshop. We were talking about this at Ohio State, and we were talking about this in our level 2 membership. This is Dr. Myers. He handles a lot of our birds. Rocky likes going to Dr. Myers. Here's Dr. Tim Reichert, former Toledo Zoo vet. He's also one of our veterinarians here. What does that say? Important to work. See how I have typed big letters? With your veterinarian. I love working with all of my veterinarians because they listen to me. They know that I put a lot of time and training into each of the animals here to make sure the vet experience is a very good one. Dr. Tim, if I work with him with a variety of different species of animals, primarily exotics. He'll tell different people, ask Laura to train a rear target, or he just says, have Laura show you how to do a voluntary jugular blood draw with this animal. So very important to work with your veterinarian. And I respect my veterinarian, and my veterinarians respect the work that I do. A lot of that times, I just say that through, I'd let them know the animal's trained to do this. You don't have to force the animal to do this. Attention is a highly valued reinforcer for many animals, and the reinforcer for the restraint at the vet exam with Rocky is the opportunity to be with this vet tech, Carol, okay? And let me take myself off the screen real quick, or just at least show you this way. Here's how you can size, for those of you that are in the memberships and at the workshop, size in disc. This is the size of the reinforcer. Not only is Carol standing in close proximity, Rocky's the one that defines the reinforcer, is she gets down on the ground with him and delivers the size of the reinforcer. All right? And I do need to see what this says, because, what does it say? Aversive experiences can punish the client's behavior of taking their animals to the vet. This was important for me to present this for the veterinary students at Ohio State University. If my animal is having aversive experiences it doesn't like at the vet, the animal's behaviors are going to show more resistance going to the vet. A lot of caretakers of animals, if they see their animal stressed in a veterinary environment, it can punish their future behavior of taking the animal to the vet, because they don't want to see their animal stressed. So this was important. This is Snow, our deaf and blind border collie, trained for the veterinary exam. All right. So it's really important for me to work with my veterinarian. How are you going to get Snow to move? Because her line of communication is all via touch. All right. All of this. That's why I tell people when they walk in the front door, please do not pet this dog, because you may think it's petting, but to her, you're communicating. And if you're doing all this kind of stuff, she'll be like, what do you want me to do? Sit down, lay down? Are you bridging me? Where's my reinforcer? Touch for her is a serious line of communication, because she cannot see and she cannot hear. So how are you going to get this animal to move from point A to point B? This is me asking her to be in a sit position at the veterinary office. Yeah, so, okay. Here's one, extremely important. Training and enrichment should include choice, control, and complexity is the last thing. Complexity is, don't keep giving the same old toy. We're constantly shaping increasing levels of complexity or different levels of complexity. And two of some of my favorite researchers out of UC Davis mentioned Meehan, something from one of their research papers. Captive enclosures lack problem-solving enrichment. Yes, they do. Not here at the Animal Behavior Center, they don't, because we know how important that is. The more bored an animal is, the more opportunity for it to find something that fills that space of boredom. And that can be excessive screaming, certain behaviors, excessive nail chewing, which can turn into over-grooming, over-preening, feather-destructive behaviors, mutilation, broken teeth, increased stress, okay? And I gave the example last week at OSU. I said, look how far human enrichment has evolved, okay? I do a lot of traveling. You get me on a flight, I constantly have to stay busy. I have to be doing something. If I'm not doing something physically, I need to be learning something, whether that's through my earbuds or through something I'm reading. Education is enrichment for me, all right? Look at how we fly today versus 20 years ago, all right? 20 years ago, you bought a magazine and you sat on a plane. Holy cow, you give me a magazine for 5 hours, I'm going to be poking myself in the eye, starting to pull off my fingernails. But that's how we traveled 20 years ago. Now look what we do. We all have our laptops, our iPads, our smartphones, all right? And when I'm on a plane, I am constantly doing something because I cannot sleep on a plane. I will be sitting there doing all I can on the internet until the plane takes off. And then I switch to listening to my audiobooks or playing my games, which is rare, or turning on my laptop and working on a presentation. If you took those forms of enrichment from me, it would probably positively punish my future behavior of flying for sure. I would start resisting going on a flight because I'm bored. I have lack of choices. How's that for a cage? An airplane. Yeah, you're crammed into these tiny seats, little choice, okay? Your choices are definitely restricted. Imagine how animals feel in our care. How can we do better? Okay. I'm just taking a look at, okay, Joanne. Whew, hang on. Joanne says, I'm thinking you guys are talking about a parrot. I don't know. I know you guys are talking as this is going on, which I thank you. I enjoy you guys doing that. He doesn't play with any toys. He literally shreds a cardboard box and newspaper all day. He loves material too. I've only had him 6 weeks. Be careful, Joanne. Anybody in here that's in the Parrot Project knows that I'm going to tell you, you may be reinforcing nesting behavior, which was a big part of this presentation, but I took it out because we're talking about all different animals. Feel free to email me, Joanne, because you want to be careful with that one. Be careful what you know. Be careful what you're reinforcing, right? Okay, so, oh, here's Shelly. Okay, this is just part, because I'm talking about separation anxiety. A lot of people don't know the signs of separation anxiety. A lot of companion dog owners don't know what stress looks like in animals. Start following some really well-respected people within the dog training community. If you don't know who those are, feel free to reach out to me. I will point them out to you. People who study a lot of the same things I do, because a lot of people don't, and stay tuned, I got a slide coming up on this, don't even know what stress or separation anxiety looks like in their own companion dogs. It is definitely so misunderstood in the avian community. Separation anxiety is exploding in the companion parrot community, and so is reinforcing nesting behaviors. Many people do not understand what reinforcing nesting behaviors looks like. Nesting can happen with your male and your female parrots, but definitely not limited to. Creating providing boxes to shred and hang out in, that's a big one. If I see that, I do not want to see my cockatoos on the ground, because that's like letting certain natural behaviors be reinforced, but the end result can never be reached. If you are not breeding them, the end result cannot be reached, and that can be extremely frustrating for any animal. And oftentimes in the companion animal community will lead to excessive, abnormal repetitive behaviors, feather destructive behaviors, and a lot of times evolves to mutilation. So here's Shelly Hochstetler. Her and I worked together with Abby, the mutilating cockatoo, which was a behavior modification plan was given for mutilation, which some of the things that were done were some of the worst things that could have done. It started with screaming. The behavior modification plan was put in place. It ended up in mutilation, pretty bad, pretty fast. And what we did is I went into this organization and said, you have got to get this animal out of here ASAP, because I went in 2 days prior to that, put a behavior modification plan in place, and understandably so, they could not implement it effectively. Yeah, Rocky! Shelly Hochstetler, which is level 2 member and member of the Parrot Project, stepped forth and said, Laura, I want to help you, because I was like, what this animal needs right now is a serious behavior modification plan where that animal is sitting right beside you right now. So this bird has stopped mutilating and well on its road to recovery. Okay. Daphne says, my face says it all. Which part was I talking about? Separation anxiety in many animals is not understood. And I move on to, I have some examples coming up. Abnormal repetitive behaviors and lack of enrichment. We already talked about that. Another one, here's one. People may not know what a stressed or fearful animal looks like. Let me take myself off the screen so I can try to read the rest. Got that? So I give several different examples of several different animals. Oh, the bad protocol. Yeah, I'll tell you, Daphne. When I heard about the behavior modification plan that was put in place, I said, who gave you that behavior modification plan? Because that is one of the worst things you could have done. Now we have counter conditioning. All right. Okay. I gave this example here to these students last week, and this is definitely not limited to birds, but they were very interested in more information on parrots. Do they know what they are seeing? All right. And in this slide, I'm showing an animal that I've been talking about. All right. One with lack of choice, probably by the looks of it, lack of enrichment. I am showing neutral stimulus. All right. And can you read this animal's behavior? If this animal is brought up in an environment with lack of enrichment, something as small as we think the animal should be okay with, that's not what it's about. It's about being able to accurately read the body language, the behavior. I am trying to present, this is a small toy, to an animal, and then look at that behavior. And this is a rhetorical question. Is that excitement or is that fear? All right. So if we don't even know what that looks like in the exotic animal community, a lot of times people don't know what that looks like in the companion animal community, in the canine community. All right. So are there any questions? because I know the next thing I talk about was the end of my presentation. If you need to reach me at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com, which I have these here as well. If you need to reach me, you can all contact me at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. That is our website. On there, you will find my email address, laura@theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. I'm willing to take some questions from you guys if you guys have any questions. Like I said, this was a presentation that went 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I just threw just a handful of slides in there for you. So for those of you that may not know, this afternoon I am giving a live stream presentation to All Parrot Rescue out of Washington. All right. These are some of the services that I offer are my teleconferencing services. If you want any topic in more detail, I can customize them. You can go to our website. This is a screenshot from our website. And I believe under services, you'll find teleconferencing. You'll see some of the topics that I already speak about. And I also customize them to what you want in an array of topics, all right? Helps reduce cost of flying me where you need to fly me. Pat says, Laura, can night frights in parrots be related to separation anxiety? I would, without giving that more thought, Pat, I would say it could. It could. Yeah. The first thing I would ask Pat is, what do the night frights sound like? Can you get a camera on them? Because somebody that I thought used to have night frights was somebody right behind me. And there's some different ways that I've rearranged environments. Not saying that it hasn't, but he's got a camera on him and I can hear. And there's a couple of different things I've done to rearrange the environment to set him up for success to see if we could get those to stop. But Patricia, I would say, yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome, Melinda. What did the side shows your picture covered the slide? Yeah, I know. Sorry, this was my first time doing it in this platform. So I didn't know you weren't going to be able to hear me if I took myself off screen. The question above is a good one. Which one would that be? I have a difficult time enriching my paralyzed macaw. She can't hold things and cannot balance. Wow, that's pretty intense, Maureen. Feel free to get in touch with me. Okay, Pat says she has an imprinted Pyonis who jumps off perch and thrashes. Maybe I would think, without giving that more thought, Pat, I might think about a sleeping cage, smaller, where she can't hurt herself or fall off a perch. Okay, so if you are on your laptop and you look to your left, you can see sign up for our email newsletter. Those go out once every 2 weeks. We had one that just went out. I put a lot of content in those in the form of video and writing. So I've got 2 articles due this week, one for the Pet Professional Guild, Bart from the Guild, and the other one for Bird Talk. So that's what I'm going to be doing all day today and all day tomorrow. Also, if you're interested in our live streaming services, you can check out our projects or our memberships online. Level 2, we will be talking about the no reward marker in depth next Sunday as a result of our book review. And it is a review of a book on dog training where I first heard about the no reward marker. And I was like, what the heck is that? There's no way I would do that. Level 1 is for companion animals. Level 2 are for people who are more interested in applied behavior analysis and work with animals. And then we have our species-specific projects. Thank you, guys. And hey, Kimberly, I'm going to be contacting you here very soon. There's Kimberly with All Parrot Rescue. So this afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, I will be going live with All Parrot Rescue. yeah, so join us, and you can find out more about that by contacting somebody at All Parrot Rescue or going to the events, hey Sandy, events section on our Facebook page right here. Kramer says, Laura, are you going to restock your Target sticks? I have gotten some requests for purple and blue. Yes. Lou, they come in, I believe, next week. This week. When is the 1st of November? This week? Yeah. We'll be restocking them. They're already being shipped. I would love to have been Ohio State to hear the entire presentation. Yeah. It was cool. It was cool. It was a lot of fun. And we're continuing to collaborate with them. So stay tuned. All right. I talked to Deb Jones. Her and I are going to do a coffee with the critters on a recap of the all species animal training and behavior workshop that we did 2 weeks ago. So we will be notifying all attendees of that workshop to make sure you know, because you might want to hear some of it. All right, guys, have a great week. I will see you next weekend on Coffee with the Critters. All right, bye.